A private plane is landing at Teterboro Airport right now. On board is the person trying to secure the largest foreign investment push in modern Canadian history. Mark Carney is not in New York to see the sights. He is not there to visit the United Nations or attend a gala. He is there to perform a move that could shift the financial map of North America. Tomorrow morning, Mark Carney walks into the heart of Manhattan to pitch a $1 trillion plan. This is the largest economic repositioning in the history of the country. And the most interesting part is who is not on the guest list. Donald Trump was not invited. The White House was not consulted. Mark Carney is bypassing the politicians to speak directly to the people who actually move the money. He is telling Wall Street that Canada is no longer waiting for permission from Washington to grow. The stakes are simple. If this works, it changes the math on your mortgage and your paycheck. If it fails, the country remains trapped in a trade war it cannot win. For the last year, the economic relationship between Canada and the United States has been a disaster. Donald Trump has used tariffs like a hammer. Steel, aluminum, and lumber have all been hit. The American ambassador, Peter Hora, says that serious talks between the two countries have been dead since October of last year. Most people expected the Canadian government to go to Washington and beg for mercy. They expected a team of diplomats to sit in a boardroom and plead for tariff relief. But Mark Carney is playing a different game. He knows that the mandatory review of the trade agreement known as CUSMA starts on July 1, 2026. He knows that the American side wants to treat the deal as disposable. Instead of arguing with trade negotiators like Jameson Greer, Mark Carney is going to the chief executive officers who fund the campaigns and run the industries. He is showing them that Canada has options, while Washington battles tariffs, political uncertainty, and trade threats. Ottawa is trying to present Canada as the predictable place to build factories and invest capital. This is not a routine diplomatic visit. This is a statement of independence. If Mark Carney succeeds, the impact on your life will be massive. The government believes this plan can add $3,500 to the pocket of every Canadian worker. It is a bet on what they call reliance to resilience. For decades, 75% of Canadian exports went to one place. If the United States had a bad day, Canada had a crisis. Mark Carney wants to break that cycle. He is pitching a 5-year window to move $1 trillion into factories, mines, and power plants. This is not just about big numbers on a screen. It is about whether your kids graduate into a job market that is growing or a job market that is shrinking. It is about whether the Bank of Canada can lower borrowing costs because the country is finally attracting new money. The strategy is simple. If companies no longer trust the United States, Canada wants to become the safer place to build, hire, and invest. That is the theory. But theories do not pay the bills. To see how this works, you have to look at the venue. Mark Carney is speaking at the Economic Club of New York. This is the ultimate stage for financial power. Presidents and central bankers speak here when they want to move markets. Mark Carney is not a career politician. He was the governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. He worked at Goldman Sachs. He was a senior executive at Brookfield Asset Management. When he walks into that room, he is speaking to his peers. He is telling them that while the United States is dealing with a downgraded credit rating and a banking sector under stress, Canada is the safer long-term bet. He is not asking for a favor. He is advertising a return on investment. The investigation reveals that Canada may be gaining ground in the global fight for capital. The evidence is in the data that the Prime Minister's office just released. Last year, while the trade war was at its peak, foreign direct investment into Canada hit $97 billion. That is the highest level in nearly 20 years. For a decade, money was flowing out of the country. Now the bleeding has stopped. Canada still holds a AAA credit rating. It also has one of the strongest debt positions in the Group of Seven. For Wall Street investors, that means lower risk at a time when global markets feel increasingly unstable. Mark Carney is telling Wall Street that Canada is an energy superpower. The country sits on the critical minerals that run the 21st century economy. You cannot build electric vehicles or semiconductors without the nickel, lithium, and cobalt found in the Canadian North. Canada is also adding jobs in artificial intelligence faster than the United States. The pitch is that Canada is a stable, democratic alternative to less reliable suppliers. He is telling investors that Canada has 16 free trade agreements covering 51 countries. If you build a factory in Canada, you get access to 1,500,000,000 consumers. The United States cannot match that right now because trade relationships are becoming more unstable and unpredictable. But there is a deeper layer that the government does not mention in the press releases. This strategy is high risk. While Mark Carney is chasing global billionaires, small businesses in Canada are struggling. Conservative members of parliament, led by figures like Pierre Poilievre, argue that the government is ignoring the people making payroll every 2 weeks. They say that regulatory relief at home is more important than a speech in Manhattan. There is also the reality of geography. You cannot simply undo 100 years of integration with the United States in 5 years. 70% of Canadian goods still go south. If the trade review in July goes poorly, all the investment in the world might not save the manufacturing sector. Mark Carney is betting that he can build enough leverage in New York to force a better deal in Washington. He is trying to show Donald Trump that Canada is not cornered. He is trying to show that capital is already moving north. But if Wall Street decides to wait and see what happens with the tariffs, the trillion-dollar target becomes a fantasy. What we are seeing is a shift from diplomacy to competition. Mark Carney is using a specific financial lever to build a web of relationships across 4 continents. He has already secured $70 billion from the United Arab Emirates. He has signed deals with the European Union, China, and India. The New York trip is stage 1 of a sequenced campaign. Stage 2 is the July trade review. Stage 3 is the Canada Investment Summit in Toronto this September. He has already invited the world's largest investors like BlackRock and the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund known as GIC. The goal is simple. Canada does not want its entire economy tied to one country anymore. This is the same playbook Mexico used to survive the last round of trade friction. It is a slow, deliberate attempt to reduce dependency. It is how smaller economies survive pressure from larger ones. The next 6 months will decide if this was a masterstroke or a massive mistake. The trade review begins on July 1st. Donald Trump and his team, including Jameson Greer, have made it clear that tariffs are not coming off the table. They believe Canada has been a free rider for too long. If they decide to rip up the agreement, the uncertainty could freeze the very capital Mark Carney is trying to attract. Watch the September summit in Toronto very closely. If the big funds show up with concrete commitments, Canada enters 2027 as a different kind of economic power. If they stay home, the reliance on the United States remains a chokehold. For the person worried about their mortgage or their job in a factory, this is the only story that matters. The noise in the news is theater. The deals signed in New York hotel suites are reality. The global map of money is being redrawn, and Canada is trying to claim the center spot. Whether Wall Street is willing to move money away from an increasingly unpredictable United States remains one of the biggest financial questions in the world right now. This is part of a larger investigation into how our understanding of the financial system has evolved. Across history, our picture of the economy has changed, and we are following that transformation step by step. If you want to see the data and the deals that the mainstream media is missing, join my Substack for uncensored content. The link is in the description. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more authentic breakdowns of the hidden systems running your world.